can you tell us what are the biggest challenges in your ministry today?
I think some of the biggest challenges that faces people in ministry today are fear. I think that the world is really sending a lot of messages of despair and hopelessness, and that like everything's terrible. And so fear and confronting fear, and not just naivety or idealism, but really confronting fear and saying, actually, the way God sees the world is not through the lens of fear. It's through the lens of hope and possibility. And really agreeing with God about those things and facing our fear. And I think the second, one of the second challenges for me is just the speed of change. So, I mean, we're talking like in 10 years, you know, like the way things work has completely changed. Systems, structures, things that used to work just 20 years ago are now no longer working. And the speed at which we need to really learn this thing called adaptation, which is changing to keep up with the culture. And I think that's really a really big challenge and a great opportunity.
So do you think those are things that actually young pastors and church planters should be really aware of?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Adaptability, and at the speed of it, you know, like probably right when you feel like you've just got something down, it's going to change. And the willingness that you have to open your hand and change with the times and change with what God's strategy wants to be as well, the more effective you will be in ministry.
Okay. So next year, our theme is going to be revitalize.
Yeah.
So, and that has a lot to do with what you're just saying, right?
Absolutely. Jesus is resurrection.
Right.
And he's the resurrection and the life. And literally his mission was to give us life in all of its fullness, was to revitalize the intention that God had for us from the start. So that's a great theme. I love it, revitalize. And everybody, in order to be a church that is revitalizing the community, you need to be a leader who has been revitalized. You have to have a message of hope that comes from within you. And so I hope that you'll come to this conference and get revitalized. If ever there was a time for life to flourish in the life of leaders that could lead churches that would flourish in communities, it's right now. Let's get revitalized.
Right. So
I'm in.
Also about those pastors and church planters, and we think of them as their ministries, but also we have their families and marriages.
Yes.
What is the importance, of the marriage and the family within the ministry?
Yeah, I think it's a micro and a macro, so I don't see family and ministry separate.
Okay.
I think they're connected in terms of your mission is to represent God well on the earth. Your mission is to follow Jesus and the ways of Jesus, and that works in your relationships. I mean, family works like a mirror to how you love, right? So if you want to live a life that's marked by love, which is a life that looks like Jesus, your family is a perfect place to practice. You know, what does forgiveness look like? Ooh, I know. Do it in your family. You know, what does a relationship look like? What does the importance of connection look like? Do it all in your family. Practice those things in your family. What does it look like to overcome your anger or jealousy or rage or whatever it is with love? What does that look like to forgive somebody and then carry on in relationship with them? Well, that looks like family.
Right.
And that's where we work that stuff out. And how well we work that out, I think, is evidence of how good of a leader we are and how great of a disciple we become.
Yeah. And well, we know, as far as we know, you are a very busy woman.
Right.
You know, with all with your ministry and your
Right.
life as a family, as a mom.
Yes.
How do you handle all that, being such a present mom in your kids' lives and also doing your ministry everywhere?
Yeah, I think one of the keys for me one is to involve my children in our ministry. So my husband and I have always invited our kids into the ministry. It's never been like, oh, this is the ministry competing for family time. It was like our family lives like this. So that helps a lot. And also the other thing that I really realized, even the other day I was reflecting on just how great my kids are at listening to Jesus, and loving the poor and sharing and really doing the things that Jesus said to do and with all of their heart. And how if I had eyes to see, as I invite my children into ministry with me, I will learn from them as much as they will learn from me if I have eyes to see that. The other key that's been really helpful for me is that I'm not aiming for the perfect life. And often when we talk about this subject specifically, we think that we have to hold all of the things of our life in some sort of perfect balance. And we have perfect families, and we have perfect ministries, and we have a perfect, bodies, and we have a perfect, and actually nobody lives like that. That's a magazine cover. That's not real life. So what I've started aiming for instead is a life that is healthy. So healthy rhythms, time with the Lord, time with meaningful relationships, with the family in meaningful ways, time of ministry that's meaningful as well. So to create sort of healthy rhythms and healthy balance, time to play, time to just be human and have fun and enjoy life. Those are all part of what it means to live a healthy, beautiful, life-filled life, and that's what I'm aiming for.
Okay. What type of advice would you give to women that are living nowadays in 21st century?
Yeah, I would say we need you. We need every gift, every skill, every voice. We need your experience. We need you. The church needs you. And Jesus calls you. And Jesus has never, ever not called women. I mean, this is from the very beginning of his ministry, the first evangelist, the first disciple, and apostle in the New Testament. The early church was characterized by the way that they involved women in leadership. At a time in history where women weren't even considered people, let alone had the vote or any sort of skills or were allowed to go to school or any of those things. Even around the world to this day, women face a lot of those issues, and Jesus still keeps calling them and modeling to the world what empowerment looks like. So I would say to women, speak up, learn, grow, challenge yourself, use every gift that God's given you, because he's calling you as disciples, he's calling you as leaders, he's calling you as teachers, he's calling you as apostles. Let's get to this because we need you. You matter. And I would also say on this topic to leaders and pastors and disciples that if you're not making spaces for women to lead, you're not really doing the kingdom of God the way that Jesus told you and the way that Jesus modeled it. And mobilizing women for mission is one of maybe the best strategies in the world for reaching the globe. So mobilize women, encourage women, make ways for women, because women are actually fantastic disciples, first disciples and last disciples of Jesus. Yeah.